LaBerge Casino. TK joining us from over in Port Allen, just across the Mississippi River from downtown Baton Rouge at Court Street Cafe. Just a quick 5-minute drive over there. They just wrapped up lunch over at Court Street Cafe. Today on the show, we're going to talk, of course, a lot about LSU baseball. They played 4 games over the weekend. They won all 4 games handily. We'll have some just thoughts on the weekend and individual performances. Also, Kim Mulkey's squad, they cracked the top 10 a week ago. They're now climbed all the way up to number 6, and they finished second in the SEC going into the SEC tournament. They won a big game on the road over the weekend in Knoxville, which regardless of how good or bad a UT team is, anytime you go to Knoxville and beat the Lady Vols, it's a big deal. And they did that. We'll also talk a little LSU basketball. The Pelicans are red hot right now. Don't look now, but the Pelicans are technically, if the season were to end today, in the play-in game. They'll be playing in Los Angeles against the Lakers, a team they pounded over the weekend or yesterday, killed the Lakers. So right now the Pelicans are playing some of their best basketball down the stretch with a month to go or so, a month and a half to go in the season. TK and I will talk a little lockout as well, some big Major League Baseball news that Tommy will tell you about. But first off, TK, is there any Mardi Gras in your world? Did you do any over the weekend? Are you going tomorrow?
I did not. I talked to my grandsons today. They're doing a parade thing over on the North Shore in Covington tomorrow. But, I'm a little past all that. But if the grandsons, were like, hey, Pops, we want you there, I'd show up. But, and my daughter rode in a parade a couple of weeks ago, first time she ever did that. I know you've done that many times. And my question was, will you do that again? She goes, yeah, I think I'll do it again. So she must have had fun. But I'm kind of, Mardi Gras it used to be one of my favorite things in the year, in the calendar all year long when I was younger. But, hey, I'll leave it to the other folks.
Please like and share this video. Craig, Darren, thanks for watching. Please like and share. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now as we give you some thoughts over the weekend. Actually, a shout out to the boys over at Parish County Line. They performed last night. Baton Rouge's own great country band. They performed at the Bacchus Ball last night down in New Orleans. Darren, with a comment that Tommy popped up, unfortunately, looks like Coleman will be out for a while. What's up, Nookie? Javen Coleman, of course, a lefty who pitched last year for the LSU Tigers. They expected big things from him this year. And unfortunately, after doing pretty well for an inning and 2/3, he took himself out of the game with an injury. That's never good. And obviously, whether that's season ending or what, I don't know yet. Was kind of out of town this weekend. We'll kind of dig into it a little bit this week and see what we find out. But, Cade Beloso out looks like for the year. And hopefully that's not the case for Coleman because, Tommy, they just don't have many lefties on this team. And they sure don't have a lot of lefties that they have a lot of confidence in.
Yeah, and Coleman, I like the way he pitches. He's got so much movement on the ball, and he commands a couple of different pitches. So let's hope that's not too long because you got to have some lefties. And Jay Johnson's big on lefty-righty, righty-lefty combos, both when they're batting and when they're pitching. So that's going to cause he and Jason Kelly to, the pitching coach, to kind of maybe re-strategize some things.
The thing I'll say this about LSU baseball over the weekend, Tommy, they dominated their opponent. Towson was overmatched. Southern was overmatched. It looked like Southern ran out of gas. On Saturday, Southern led 2-1 going into the 6th inning, and then LSU turned around and won it 9-2. And after that, Southern was done for the weekend. I mean, they got trounced in their last 2 games that they played. I think they just kind of ran out of gas and then probably out of hope. I would have liked to have seen LSU not play that level of competition for 4 games. I wish they would have played, Southern once during the year and maybe Towson once or something. But, they dominated what you're supposed to do. They dominated from a pitching aspect. I mean, they one-hit Towson in the 3rd game of the series of the weekend. They took care of business on the mound. There was really no bobbles at all there. Offensively, they had some lulls, some surprising lulls, but clearly they got the run production they wanted. So I think they came out of this thing taking care of business. We knew they were going to win 4 games. It would have been a shocker if they'd have lost one. So, I don't know that we learned anything about this team, Tommy, that we didn't already know going into the weekend. The bad news being Coleman got hurt. Other than that, anything really jump out and surprise you?
Well, they got a bunch of guys off the bench and into the games in some of the late situations. I thought the pitching, was very good with the walk strikeout ratio, and they didn't allow a lot of runs. Again, the opponent, they were supposed to dominate, and they did. Things are going to turn up this week with UNO in the box on Wednesday. Then you got Oklahoma, Texas, and Baylor over at Minute Maid Park. Get to play in a major league facility, even though major leagues aren't playing in it. It doesn't look like anytime soon. So we're going to learn a lot more about LSU in the next 4 games than we did in the previous 4.
TK, will you check your site and make sure we're on? I'm looking on the Sports Shorts website, and I just want to make sure we're still good.
Yeah, we're on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me.
It's showing me that it's on Sports Shorts as well.
Okay. All right. My takeaway, I guess, from LSU baseball, a couple of things. The catching situation is a little bit, I think, is something that's going to be up in the air for a while with this team. Milazzo is the better option defensively. We know that about him. He's, what's the kid from Sanford? McManus, thank you. Who was banged up a little bit at the end of the fall. He's a guy who had 10 homers in the fall. He's a veteran. He's a grad transfer. Clearly, McManus is a guy that offensively should be a lot better than Milazzo. He's gotten off to a slow start. I don't know if that's physical or whatnot, but he hasn't really gotten it going. So right now, Milazzo's getting more innings. He's the better option defensively, and the only way you go away from that is if McManus really turns it on offensively. You probably on a regular team would have McManus DHing some, but you can't because you got too many other options. The other takeaway is, Jordan Thompson's having some bobbles. I know a lot of people have asked about the shortstop position. Should LSU look at some other options? At the moment, no. I think Jordan Thompson did enough last year in a body of work, whereas a true freshman played the whole year and really did a nice job. Obviously, the batting average fell towards the end. He settled around 250. But defensively, he had some stretches where he was as good as any shortstop LSU's had. And so I think you hang with it. I think you show trust in that guy. You don't really have another option pushing him to really play. You can send a message and sit him and let Brennan Holt or something like that play possibly, but a game. But as far as like really push him to start, I think you just got to wear it a little bit with Thompson and let him work through some things.
Yeah, you got to wear it a little bit. And the other thing that happens there, Ronnie, that the team has to overcome the errors. When you give somebody extra outs, you got to do what you got to do to overcome it. And this team looks like they're going to score a lot of runs. So, if you do, get the other team to get a couple of runs on the board due to the error, you got to be able to overcome it. That's part of baseball.
The other thing that I'll say about this LSU team that we saw this weekend, even as bad as they can be at times offensively, like any team, right? You're not going to get a run and score every single inning. But as a team that faces this lineup, Tommy, you can't ever relax. You might make it one time through the order, and you might be able to get them all out or be so, hey, wow, we didn't allow any runs the last 3 innings. But they're so relentless. They're so good that they're just going to get you. And it's not just, a lot of teams have 1, 2, 3 good hitters, maybe 4 good hitters. This team realistically has 6 or 7 dudes and that can just clip you at any time, leave the yard, get 3 hits in a game. This lineup is filthy. We knew it would be. And I'm not, judging that based on Towson and Southern. I'm just judging based on there's too many guys hitting 400 or better early on in this season. There's too many guys that are red hot. I can't wait for this weekend when they take on Oklahoma and Texas and Baylor in a neutral site in a major league park to really see the stars shine, because usually at this kind of environment at Minute Maid, is when over the years we've seen the Bregmans of the world turn it on, and we've seen the pitchers turn it on. And we're going to find out. I bet you Barry has a breakout weekend this weekend.
Yeah, that always happens. I mean, I remember that time Bregman was like 2 for 53 in one stretch, and then of course he stuck with it. They stuck with him, and it worked out pretty well. So, that's just baseball. There's a long way to go, and the competition is going to be stiffer, including Wednesday against UNO. They'll come in, playing their best game, trying to knock off, a ranked LSU team, and it'd be interesting to see how the next 4 games go.
I want a couple comments here. Nookie saying Milazzo is having very productive at-bats, bracketed with Dugas in front and Merrifield behind. Looks good. He successfully sacrificed 4 of 5 times. That was something his brother did very, very well. Milazzo's got an older brother that was an excellent bunter as well. And that's good because that's exactly right. Milazzo's got to be a get on base with a walk, bunt him over, type of guy. You got to look at his on base percentage more than his batting average. Craig saying the roof will be closed this weekend with rain forecasted. Doug doesn't have to worry about being cold. Was Doug complaining, Craig, on the broadcast, on the radio broadcast about being cold or something?
He was wearing that out one night.
Was he?
Oh man, he's from the Mississippi Gulf Coast, so he's getting a little chilly. Come on,
Dougie Fresh. He's getting older. That skin's getting thinner.
I would say, hey, Doug, get a straw and suck it up, dude.
Let's see. Tommy the Tank White at NC State is a great college baseball story, especially for a team that got robbed at Omaha last year. It's amazing how we forget. How the season ended last year with NC State in the College World Series in the catbird seat to make it to the finals.
Went through Ruston to get there. And ended up having to go home because of COVID. They had too many COVID cases, and that gave Vandy a clear path to the finals. We thought that it was going to be a lock that Vanderbilt was going to win it after having pitching rested and everything, and then Mississippi State ended up shocking the world and dominating them in Game 3. But I hadn't even thought about that. Man, the NC State story, that's a movie. That really could be a movie. I had kind of forgot until Craig brought it up, and again, I remember thinking how bad I felt for those players and for that team and the staff and all of that, just thinking, come on, man. But, hey, had to deal with it.
By the way, speaking of Mississippi State, they're going to be in New Orleans this coming weekend. They're taking on Tulane in a 3-game series. So, if you're not over at Houston, watching in Minute Maid, that's going to be a great one to go watch, Mississippi State and Tulane. And speaking of Minute Maid, Craig talking about where you can find the game. I looked at you're not going to be able to watch it on Cox Cable. There is no AT&T Sportsnet. You can get AT&T Sportsnet on DirecTV and Dish TV, and you can get it on AT&T Uverse. So you're going to have to go to a sports bar or get AT&T Uverse or something, or one of the satellite companies to watch the games this weekend. Also, you put up there Tommy Craig starting last night about the 4th inning. He was complaining, talking about Doug. Wasn't pleasantly surprised they called the game in the was pleasantly surprised they called the game in the 7th. There is a 10-run rule in effect that if agreed upon between the two coaches outside of SEC play. So of the 56 regular season games that LSU plays, 30 of them are in conference, 26 are out of conference. If the two head coaches agree before the game, hey, we're going to play a 10-run rule after 5 or after 7 or whatever the case may be. I think it's after 7, right, Tommy, in the college. They can agree to that. Most coaches don't agree to it, but in Southern's case where they played 5 games in 6 days, 5 games in 6 days, Missouri on Wednesday and got run out of town, and then they got beat up over the weekend. They were out of pitching. They were done. That's why they waved off the white flag and saved themselves a couple of innings there. Nookie saying, remember how courageous they fought Kumar Rocker with 13 players, talking about NC State last year. I totally forgot about that. That's amazing, the story of them. All right, LSU this week, they'll play UNO on Wednesday night at home on Ash Wednesday. You got a scouting report on UNO from Ken Trahan. What did he say?
Yeah, Ken Trahan was on Hold the Rope radio last night. He said, UNO's an improved team. He said, they got 6 or 7 guys that can really hit. They got a couple of really good pitchers, which most Southland teams have, those 1 and 2 guys. I don't think either one of them will throw Wednesday night. But like he accurately described, this. You've been to the Lakefront Park a lot. It's all about the weather there. If that wind's blowing in and it's cold, I mean, it's almost not baseball. So, but Alec Box Stadium, right now the conditions are supposed to be good Wednesday night. I'm going to be out there checking it out. So I'm looking forward to seeing, because I didn't know anything about UNL till Ken gave us the update last night. So it might be a pretty good ball game.
So UNO, I mean, you played there many times back in the day. Did you get to play in the new ballpark, Tommy, back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Because I remember the old one being right in the middle of campus, and then they opened
I'm not
up.
that old, Ronnie. Okay.
But you didn't play in the old one?
No. We played at the lakefront field.
Because I thought the old one. I thought they were still playing games in the old one.
No, they got rid of that in like
80.
76, 77. I came in there 79 to 82 was when I was at Southeast.
Okay, you must have played like the first year of the new one.
Well, no, I remember thinking how nice it was and all that.
Yeah.
But again, if the wind blows in off the lake, nobody's hitting it out of there. So
UNO's baseball field, the surface back in the 80s was the best in the state of Louisiana. They actually won the award 2 or 3 years in a row for best college play-in surface in America.
Yeah, but I got a funny story about that field. I'm throwing there 82 senior year. I really got them beat. And I'm backing up third, and a ball gets away from the third baseman. And they had a little strip of turf, like 2 feet, wide, the length of the dugout, in front of the dugout. The rest of it was just grass. And when my spikes hit that turf, I tripped, I stumbled, and I dove and kept the ball from going in the dugout. Ron Maestri actually helped me get up from falling when I did, and telling me, hey, great play to not let that ball get in the dugout, lefty, or whatever he said. So I remember that. But it was a nice park. And as I've said many times, UNO and Tulane, that was the premier programs in Louisiana when I played college ball.
LSU women's basketball, the story just continues, talking about a movie. I mean, 6th in the country. They don't look to me like the 6th best team in the country, based on when I watch them play, especially they look clunky at times in a big way against Alabama at home. They scored 1 point in the last 5.5 minutes on Saturday against Tennessee, but somehow they just find a way to win. And obviously you give Kim Mulkey tremendous credit. When your team doesn't necessarily play its best and it still wins, that's all coaching. But here they are, their record is what it is, and they are ranked 6th in the country. I still don't feel like they're a national championship team or even a Final Four team when I look at how they play, but who knows? I mean, this team's a team of destiny. It
has to be noted, Roddy, with that win yesterday, they clinched 2nd place in the SEC. SEC women's basketball, by far the best conference in America. And, oh, by the way, they're in 2nd place. The team ahead of them is the number 1 team in the country in South Carolina, which, LSU gave them all they wanted. So, I don't know if that's a national championship team like you said, but I think the ranking's right when the voters look and say, okay, they finished 2nd in the SEC behind the number 1 team in the country. And that's a little glitter there because of the job Kim Mulkey's done and the turnaround of the program. So they got a big send-off party Wednesday, leaving the PMAC. They're going to play on Friday, the opponent to be determined depending on what happens in the Thursday game. So it'd be curious to see how the Tigers do.
LSU men, they were a 14.5-point favorite against Missouri. They covered, and they took care of business. And, obviously Missouri's not a very good basketball team, but they did what you're supposed to do. Shaq was in the building. It was the first time since maybe the beginning of the year that we saw Shaq there. That was always fun. And LSU took care of business. Did you read anything into it?
Well, John Brady was also on Hold the Rope last night. He joined us at Sammy's Grill, and he said he thought that was an important game because they had lost 2 before that Missouri game. And you got at Arkansas Wednesday, Bama comes to town Saturday, and he was thinking, hey, if they didn't do what they had to do against Missouri, they may have ended the season on a 5-game losing streak. So he thought that was a very important game. As he said, the defense was just phenomenal. They played good defense. But like we've said, and he said, unprompted, he said this last night. He said, "Just don't have anybody can score the basketball. Somebody you can run a play and get them a shot, and they're going to hit 50% or more of them." So, but he likes the athleticism of the team, and he doesn't know how far they can go because it goes back to what we said on Sports Shows Daily a couple weeks ago. When LSU men's basketball plays the game, they're never out of the game, but neither is the opponent. But Missouri was, and LSU covered a big number.
The other topic of the day that's a big one with the baseball world in effect is Major League Baseball. There was a kind of a self-imposed deadline this afternoon. They're still in meetings as we on at 2:33 Central Time on this Gras edition. If they've said that if they don't come to an agreement, then they're going to push back the start of the season, which obviously affects a lot of things. And another big news today down in Miami.
Yeah, well, the lockout doesn't look good. I mean, that kind of deadline that they kind of imposed is today. And I saw a report shortly before we got on air here that the owners are willing to delay the season by a month to try to get to this. I say lock yourself in the room, figure it out today, tonight, tomorrow. I mean, the issues are there. Both sides got to compromise a little bit. It's an odd situation, and everybody's waiting to hear, but I think they're turning fans away, especially if they delay the season. That's going to be bad. The players think they need 4 weeks before they play the first game. As of right now, it's March 31st. You got over 4 weeks to get ready. But as I heard Harold Reynolds talking about on the MLB Network, that 2 years ago when they didn't have spring training, you had over 800 players on the IL. That was a record, and there's some tribute because they weren't ready to go like they would have been had they had the 4 weeks or more of spring training. And then on top of all this, Derek Jeter steps down as the leader of the Marlins organization. 5 years, and he just didn't feel like he got it done the way he wanted. He doesn't like the future commitment of the team, and Derek Jeter is out in the front office with the Marlins.
Yeah, it's pretty odd that if you're going to slash and burn and your job is to get in there and balance the books, like why does Jeter have to be that guy, right? Like Jeter's the guy you want to be the CEO when you're out there actively recruiting free agents and you got money to spend. Hey, I want to go play for Derek Jeter, and he knows how to win championships and build teams and what they look like. Instead, it was set up to fail right from the get-go. They bring him in because they had spent tons of money on these big contracts prior to the new ownership group. And I've been to that ballpark and been to a couple of Marlins games. It's a beautiful ballpark, a great place to watch a game, but people just don't go in droves. There's just not a connection to that community the way that you would think there would be, because the Latino community loves baseball, and that is the capital of the Latin culture in the world. But for whatever reason, there's just a disconnect. And so you bring Jeter in and you tell him, all right, we want you to get, cut money. They had the fourth highest payroll last year, $61 million. We want you to get rid of everybody, trade off everybody, and, build from within. Well, that takes a while, man. That's a 5-year project. And then you throw in COVID and everything else. Like, it just not a good situation for Jeter. I'm curious if he had enough, and he is, I forget this ownership running a team game. I'm going to go do TV or something else, or if he'll jump to another organization.
Or, end up back in the front office with the Yankees, some kind of special assistant. We see a lot of them guys in all organizations. So, yeah, it sounds to me, the stuff I read, that Jeter's just not on the same page, or the ownership's not on the same page with where Derek Jeter would like to go. So you give him credit for saying, hey, if this is not what I thought it was going to be, I'm going to get out the way and then let them, fend for themselves.
Just a quick note on this, obviously with what's going on in the world, particularly over in Russia and Ukraine, the Russian soccer team has been kicked out of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar by FIFA, after the world governing body and the European Association issued a joint statement. That came down just before noon today. Yesterday, they talked about them potentially not being able to play in the World Cup. And now I guess after talking about it and floating that out there amongst the world, the reaction was, yeah, no, they're not going to be able to participate. So that's good. I mean, obviously those athletes don't make political decisions and all that, so you feel for those guys. But yeah, you can't have Russia, who invaded a democratic country, be participating. And not to mention it's a safety issue, Tommy. Imagine, somebody trying to use a soccer match to make a political statement or to, fire a gun or bomb something or protest. I mean, it's just FIFA doesn't need that, and I don't blame them for doing what they did. I think it's a good thing. Not that it's going to make Russia do anything different in Ukraine, but that there has to be ramifications for your actions. And I'm glad that indeed did happen. Good news in New Orleans. The Pelicans are on a roll right now. I know you're a big Pelicans fan. You wear your jersey every night, but the Pelicans don't look now on the road, knock off Phoenix, one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Then they go shut up LeBron James and the Lakers, which is always good. And right now the Pelicans would be in the play-in game.
Well, Ken Trahan also talked about the Pelicans, and he followed them a lot closer than I last night when he was with us on Hold the Rope Radio. And he said, this Willie Green is quite the coach. He said, not a lot of people heard of him, and it wasn't that splash hire like you tend to think. But he said, this guy can flat out coach. And the addition of C.J. McCollum has made a big difference for this team. And he also said he doesn't expect Zion to be back this year. That's a whole secondary story. But the Pelicans are an improved team under Willie Green. I don't think there's any question about that. We'll see how the rest of the season goes.
A national story, and one final thought before we go. And please, folks out there, like and share this video. Like and share it. I appreciate it. We'll get the full video posted up there on Sports Shorts and all as soon as we're done. Hugh Jackson's getting a ton of heat up at Grambling for the hiring of Art Briles as the offensive coordinator. And when I say a ton of heat, I mean nothing bigger than Doug Williams saying, I'm done with Grambling. That is the guy. He's your Billy Cannon. And Art Briles, of course, who hasn't coached in 5 or 6 years after how he totally mishandled all the things over at Baylor and covered up some things under the rug, all the rapings, and some of his former players are in jail. Hugh Jackson hired him. Obviously, it's a great hire from a standpoint of you got a coach who's a great offensive mind over at Grambling to help you. But I don't know if it's worth what's happened. I think Hugh Jackson misfired on this one.
Well, first off, he hadn't been approved by the Louisiana system yet. And there's talk that he's going to get X'd out of there for that. But there's a history. When he got let go by Baylor, Hugh Jackson was a coach of the Cleveland Browns and brought Briles in to work with the offensive staff, trying to improve the offensive production when he's at Cleveland. So they're friends, obviously, and Hugh Jackson has turned to him before. I'm just surprised they didn't check that out a little more thoroughly before hiring him to try to get a sense for the blowback. And my feeling is the Louisiana system, especially with everything going on in the rest of the state, namely at LSU, I got a feeling they're not going to approve that hire because, again, all schools, Southeastern hires a coach. It's got to get approved by the Louisiana system. Right. 99% of them, boom, yep, he's in, she's in, whatever it might be. I think this is going to be one of those 1% that does not get approved.
Well, there's a couple of things that are interesting about this story, and that is that, it's a historically black college. You're talking about a white offensive coordinator. You've got your most famous alum in Doug out there bashing your university. You've got Stephen A. Smith and others around the country bashing your university. So it's not working out for you, even no matter how good of a coach he is. But then the problem is if you don't approve the hire, if I'm Hugh Jackson, what I'm out. You know what I mean? Like as a football coach, you should be able to hire whoever you want. The thing is that according to Doug, he mentioned that he knew about this hire beforehand, like it would have been talked about, and that he expressed his displeasure in this decision, that he didn't think it was a good idea, and they went ahead and made the hire anyway. Now, obviously, an athletic director and a head coach are going to do whatever they want, but it wasn't as if they didn't have pushback already on this decision, and they went ahead with it anyway, even though it was not well received by the alumni at Grambling. So big story here. It would be interesting if if in fact they do not rubber stamp the hire. And I agree with you, Tommy. I think there's a pretty good percentage chance that it doesn't
I'll
get
put it
traded.
this way: I'll be surprised if they approve it. Okay, if they don't approve it, I'll figure that was what's going to happen. Hey, Ronnie, a quick baseball note somebody just sent me before I tell everybody about Court Street Cafe. If there's a lockout, if there's no baseball season this year, you got to be a hardcore baseball fan to get this, but Bobby Bonilla will be the highest paid player of the year if there's a lockout. Of course, he had that Mets deal that the guy that's on radio now gave him, where he gets like 1 point something million every July 1st for like 20 more years. Hey, don't forget Court Street Cafe, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Even though tomorrow's Mardi Gras, they'll be open. You want to get something before you go parading, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Court Street Cafe on Court Street in Port Allen. Nice patio out front you can use in this nice weather. Connect with them on Facebook and Instagram. Court Street Cafe here in Port Allen.
If you're gambling, by the way, you gotta figure out a way to bring Doug Williams back into the fold. You cannot let Doug Williams.
Well, if they don't hire Browse, that's the first olive branch to say, okay,
Right.
Doug, let's sit down now.
Right.
Maybe
But
bring
I
him
think
in
if
as
they
well.
don't hire Browse, they might be hiring a new head coach too. I think that's Hugh Jackson may say I'm out. That's
he might.
pick your poison. There.
It's an
Hey,
ugly
Doug, you want to
situation.
come coach because we need a coach now that Hugh Jackson's gone. Quick little before we go, Nookie posted C.J. McCollum. Of course, the former Portland Trailblazer who's been on fire with the Pelicans had nice things to say about New Orleans, how he's happy there and loves the city. That's a breath of fresh air, right? Because some of the great basketball players of the past have not been that outspoken about the city of New Orleans. And let me tell you what, if C.J. McCollum leads them to the playoffs and keeps playing the way he is, he'll be the king of Mardi Gras next year. No doubt about it. For Tommy, I'm Ronnie. We'll be back on Wednesday for more Sports Shorts Daily from Tremonti's. We'll be at Tremonti's now on Wednesdays and Fridays. Looking forward to that. Have a great Mardi Gras. Enjoy tomorrow. If you go to any of the parades, stay safe. And then the Lenten season begins. Ash Wednesday on Wednesday, and a lot of folks are going to be seafood, all that kind of stuff down the stretch until Easter. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you on Wednesday for more Sports Shorts presented by our good friends over at LeBear's Casino.
Don't forget to like and share.